All right, guys, so welcome back to Exotic Car Hacks, and on today's episode, we are talking about maintenance. That's right, you may be thinking when I say maintenance that I'm talking about oil service, but really I'm not. I'm talking about being blessed with the opportunity of having so many cars that actually holding them without even driving them will make a significant difference. Now, if you've ever wondered, what do I need to do if I'm not actually driving my cars all the time? How should I upkeep them? What are some of the things I should do in order to make sure they still run properly and can be turnkey ready to go as soon as I'm ready to drive them? Even if I intend not to drive them for a couple of weeks, you need to be watching this video. And of course, this year I've committed to creating more interesting content that can help you become an even better car hacker than ever before. And if you don't know what that is, please click the link in the description and learn what car hacking is in 90 minutes or less. And more importantly, join Exotic Car Hacks, the greatest community that's ever existed for exotic car owners, or of course, future owners, and like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. But today we're gonna not only be talking about what you should be doing, but I'm also gonna link in the description some of the links to where I personally buy some of this stuff. And no, I haven't been paid by anybody, again, to do this. I do this literally because I believe in the products that I talk about, and I'm literally using them. So we're gonna be talking about these products and more today. So in the description, any of the products I talk about, you'll have a link to being able to actually purchase these products and use them on your very own car. And again, you don't have to have a Bugatti, you don't have to have a 918, you don't even have to have an STO to care for maintaining your car and making sure it is properly kept if it is not being driven. So let's get straight into it. So the first thing we're going to be talking about, and the most obvious one, trickle chargers. That's right, trickle chargers, and you'll see all of these wires hanging out here. All of these wires here are basically connected to these cars to keep the batteries full. You'll notice that even on the Bugatti here, there is an actual charger right here at the bottom, and all of these cars are basically charged one way or another. Now, if you actually come here to the actual chargers themselves, the majority of exotic cars are specifically assigned their own chargers from the factory. So that means you don't actually have to do anything like buying an extra charger. It usually comes with your car if you bought it new. But if you're buying it used, it's very likely that it wasn't included or that it was misplaced. Now, even older cars like this, there's somewhere in there, you can see there's a wire running, and you'll see here, again, another charger. So these chargers are basically all around, preventing us from having dead batteries. This is the most common thing you can do, and actually Ferrari recommends that if you're not even driving your car, you leave it on a trickle just to ensure the battery stays full. Now, some cars are going to have longer battery life, like Porsche, Ford, etc. They're going to run much longer without being connected to a trickle, but Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, they need to be on a trickle, especially if you're not going to drive at least once a week and really drive more than 5 miles. So the trickle charger is literally the first place you want to be going to ensure that you have one ready for your car if it wasn't included with the car itself. Now, you'll notice that every single car here is on a trickle except this 918, and even you see this STO from the very top is also on a trickle as well. The main point with the 918 not being on a trickle is that the actual charger is a hybrid charger. And while the hybrid charger on 918 does not require it to be plugged at all times, something to consider, if your car is a hybrid, like an SF90, for example, you could leave it plugged in forever. It still won't hurt anything because the charger itself will regulate on and off as it needs to ensure the battery is charged. That's something Ferrari got right on that car. On the 918, it's not quite that easy. It's a little bit more quirky, so you really only want to use it when you're really not driving the car for a long duration of time. One thing I would also recommend is reading your owner's manual and ensuring you don't leave a car plug that would hurt the car. On the McLaren P1, for example, leaving the charger or the car charged at all times will damage the battery, and the battery can be quite costly, over 6 figures. Same with the 918. You want to be aware of these things and ensure you don't make mistakes that could be very costly. On a normal car like this Bugatti, this STO, or even an older car like this 993 4S, or even this Ford GT, you can leave them basically plugged at all times because they have standard batteries that basically will stay charged, and these chargers will automatically kind of go on sustain mode instead of kind of charge mode when the car is charged and ready to go. This ensures that every time you start the car, you basically have fire and it runs. Now, let's get to our second most important thing. All right, the second very important thing to do is, as you'll notice, put your tires on some of this flat stoppers. So what flat stoppers are is they prevent your tire from having flat spots in them, meaning if a car sits with all of its weight on one side of the tire, eventually you find yourself having a flat spot. And it's been very common that flat spots stay around until the car's driven for quite a while. Makes it very uncomfortable to drive, and more importantly, on these very expensive tires, it could be very costly if you have to replace them. Now, I have gone and used probably maybe 10, 15 different flat stoppers, and some of them you'll notice up here that are on the 993 here are very different. If you look at close to the tires right here, you'll notice that there's some rubber ones here at the bottom, and yet there's some foam ones here under the Ford GT that are quite different. So I'm gonna explain to you what I kind of discovered from this system. If you have a high-end car, like a Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, like anything with a badge or anything that's sporty that you're gonna use, I highly recommend these particular ones. I don't know, I think they're called Squadrolupo. You can see them here, and what they do is I want to show you is they're foam-like, so they have a lot of basically they're very solid and they don't really move. Now this is important because I like to back in my cars on this stuff, and when I have it on the lift, it's very difficult to back in. It took literally an hour and a half to put that one on the lift, and I hadn't discovered this product yet. This is what a normal stopper looks like, so I want to show you the difference. The first thing is you'll notice that there's this constant need to go up and then fall in, and then there's only one direction you can go. So once the car is on, it's kind of solidly on, and the issue is it moves the stuff around. It doesn't look good, and it's very difficult to get this to grip. You see, this doesn't move as much. This moves very easily. So when this is on a surface like a lift, it makes it even harder to constantly have to try to get your car in there, and it doesn't work. These foam things are a little bit more expensive, but they're really the Ferrari of these flat stoppers, and they work really, really well. I use them in all my cars. I just got a few sets in for some of these exotics, and the cars that I don't drive as much, like this Ford GT, you'll see are sitting on there. You'll see it on my SVJ and my SF90 as well. It's very easy to drive on. It doesn't move as much. Once it's on, it just feels like you can get on forward, backwards. This one you cannot. It shows you again, if you go this way, you could hurt your car. But the main thing I want you to notice, and the reason why I like this, is you'll see here that this is a hard material, this is not, and this is why it's important. If you look here under the car, you'll notice that each of these cars has these aerodynamic things. Even the STO has this, the SVJ, the Bugatti, they all have basically these flappers. They're not mud flaps, therefore aerodynamic stuff under the car. As you get these bigger ones, you see how much larger this one is from this one. You'll notice that this stuff right here, this big stuff, starts to hit this stuff and cracks it. With these lower ones, while they're better, they're also softer and they don't create any type of damage to the cars. They're a little bit more pricey, but I'll link them. You can check them out. They're called the Squadrolupo ones, and they work really, really well. I've seen even Lamborghini stores use them, rebrand them, etc. But this is as good as it gets when it comes to flat stoppers. So something to consider, something to pick up if you have an exotic. Now let's go to the next one. So our third and very important thing to remember is for those of you that are storing cars longer term. You see, that 993 is now behind a lot of different cars. It's going to be very difficult to get it out, and it's very unlikely that it actually comes out to play. For that reason, one thing that I always recommend you do if you're going to be storing a car longer than a couple of weeks, meaning like the car is going to basically be put away for maybe the entire winter or 4 or 5 months, there is something you need to be considering. I always recommend keeping the gas tank at its fullest amount possible. And the reason for that is usually because the gas tank, when half empty or a quarter empty, etc., can grow moisture in between all that air. So it can create a lot of issues when then turning the car back on and getting the moisture through the car. So one of the recommendations is always to leave your tank super full if you're going to be storing the car, and not even turning it on for the next 2 months or so. And lastly, this is what you really need. So this is microfiber towels, but not any. These are the best microfiber towels I've been able to find at a very fair and reasonable dollar. They're called Kirkland Signature. They're fantastic. You can get 36 pieces. They're not that expensive. They come from Amazon. I'm gonna link them in the bottom as well. These are fantastic for upkeeping your car. And then you'll need 2 sprays depending on if you have matte paint or glossy paint. You can either get the matte detailer spray sealant from Chemical Guys, that's excellent, or the legendary Car Care ceramic detail spray for normal flat paint cars. These are fantastic for upkeeping kind of like the car in between, and I'll show you why. Because if you look here, for example, this Bugatti's been sitting here for like just 2 weeks, and you'll notice dirt to start accumulating on the car. This is very normal, even in a garage or anything else, as the door opens, closes, and natural elements come in. It rains outside, it's humid. Things like that may just get the car dirty over time, and it's just good to upkeep it. Now, one of the reasons you want to do that on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, because over time that dirt will obviously get old, and when someone comes to wipe it down, it could get bad and will need a full wash. So if you don't like getting your car super wet because it's got crevices and it's hard to clean, these are my 2 recommendations for the best sprays and of course the best towels you can buy. So hopefully you've enjoyed this feature, just showing you and explaining to you some of the products that over the last 15 years I've basically come to enjoy and use, and I think they're fantastic. I think you should get them. I'll link them in the bio so you guys can buy them. Again, these aren't ads. I'm not paid to do this. I just decided to share with you guys some of the best products out there, what I've been using, and what has worked better than anything else out there. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and more content like this coming your way. Just again, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave me a comment right here below if there's a product you use that you've really enjoyed and why I should look into it as well. Love to hear your thoughts. I'll catch you guys next time in another Exotic Car Hacks video.